Thank you to all of our presenters. I would like to invite you to join us here for Q&A. So there is a little discrepancy between the blocks. I have to point that out. So we're doing okay. All things considered.
Okay, thank you. So we're a bit nervous because this is a new topic for us, new research topic, but here's what we have. So point us into the right direction, please. Okay, so our topic is product placement in creation picture books between the two world wars. And of course, as we all know, using children's literature for propaganda or for ideological purposes is not something new. It's not uncommon. Historically, in Croatia, educational and ideological potential for children's books dominated. In time, the focus shifted towards literary and entertaining elements. So the aim of this research is to explore and describe the phenomenon of product placement in narrative picture books. And this phenomenon actually appeared in Croatia between the two world wars. Okay, so we are going to look at product placement in narrative picture books as a literary and cultural phenomenon that both influences and reflects culture. And we're going to focus on the analysis of the visual and textual discourse. We are going to look at product references as non-fictional elements of these picture books and tackle implicit reader or dual accuracy in these picture books. So our corpus is larger, and it was derived from previous research on picture books that were published between the two world wars. But we are going to focus on these three examples. So Veseli Zvonko or Mary Zvonko, Macan's picture book, and for children and adults. Okay. So the first picture book, Mary Zvonko, was published in 1934. And this is a story about an anthropomorphic bear who suffers from severe pain from constipation. And all the characters in this picture book are anthropomorphized animals. Okay. Forgive me for this translation. It's not really great, sorry, but I think it will serve the purpose. So in this picture book, visual and verbal discourses work together. They intertwine to tell the story. And this can be seen from the example, because in the text we have a dad gives his son oil to drink. And it is from the illustration that we find out that this oil is in fact castor oil or rizinusolo. So the verbal and the visual discourses work together in this picture book.
In the Macan's picture book, is the second picture book of our corpus, we witness a day in the life of a cat named Macan. Macan is a Croatian surname, but also a word used for a male kitten. In this picture book, all the illustrations are separate sequences, but one. A case in which Macan is hurrying down the hill on a scooter, and the verbal narrator consciously avoids the information about where he is going. After creating suspense, when we turn the page, we find out the outcome. Macan ends up in a street. The rest of the illustrations are very loosely connected, even when the verbal narrator is obviously trying to make logical sense of the sequences. For example, on the right page here, Verbal and visual narrator do not tell the same story. The visual narrator implies that Matson is getting punished for breaking the window, as you can see. However, the verbal narrator connects the father's punishment with the bathing issues from the previous page, while someone, and we do not know who, broke the window. There are a lot of inconsistencies and illogical places in the narration where the visual and verbal discourses are disconnected. It can be concluded that the picture book was made in the following manner, which is not so rare in Croatian picture book history. The publisher bought the ready-made illustrations, and after that, a Croatian author wrote the text, usually in verse, to complete the story that was ordered by the publisher. For children and adults is the next picture book. It is a story about a peasant's efforts to grow goods. A good perspective for a wealthy year can end up in two ways. You can make a profit from your work, illustration on the left, or you can lose everything if something goes wrong, for example, in a case of a storm on the right. The best solution is, as is shown, insurance. In this picture book, the verbal and the visual narrator work together to convey the story. As in this example, in the illustration, we see that this person, who is not from a village, gives out papers to Croatian peasants. It is from the verbal discourse that we find out the true nature of these papers. These are insurance papers.
Okay, so every product reference is treated as a non-fictional element. Okay, so in Mary's Volko, the product being advertised is medicine Gastol, made by Rave Lab. You can see it on the first spread on the right. So product placement is present in both visual and verbal discourse. The resolution of the story again puts forward medicine Gastol that solves the constipation. Product placement is also found in the peritext, because after the story is finished, after the narrative, we can read a medical explanation about constipation and instructions for use, okay, how to use Gastol. And not only that, but on the first spread on the left page, you can see another product being advertised, which is no connection to the story, to the narrative whatsoever, but it's simply here. It's quinoferol or something like that, which is used for iron deficiency. Okay, so again, it's just put on the first page. It's not mentioned anywhere else in the story. We have other non-fictional elements in this picture book, because Zagreb is the setting of the plot, and when the father takes his son for a walk, perhaps he just needed a walk and the pain is not so severe, you can see the symbol of Ban Jelačić Square in the background. And also, let's not forget the lab that makes the medicine. So you can see Rave. Yeah, thank you. Yes, the main square is Zagreb. Yeah. So the buildings are pretty much. I mean, without the statue, you wouldn't guess that it's Zagreb. But
Maybe
once you see the statue,
this is tram.
Yeah.
Today, the horse is 30.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's facing the other way. Okay.
In Matson's picture book, product placement is both embedded in the story and can be found in the peritext. The story begins with Matson doing his accounting job to calculate the lowest price for his good shoes. Also, in the end, after many adventures and finishing his lunch, of course, Madsen is going to his shoe factory to make some shoes for good children. The product is embedded in the verbal discourse, but not in the visual, which further supports the idea that the illustrations are borrowed and that the text was written afterwards. As can be seen in this spread, product placement is also present in the peritext before the beginning of the story. In this picture book, product placement is not only found at the end of the story. As previously mentioned, the illustration shows a man, an insurance seller, who gets the full attention of everyone present, people, no matter of their age, animals, and even sunflowers. Advertising elements are present in both discourses. Interestingly, a name of the insurance company is not given in the narrative, but only in the peritext. State Insurance Company is the publisher of the picture book. We do not have any reason to think that these picture books were not intended for children. However, their purpose as advertising tools was to stimulate desires and not needs. The only picture book from our examples which offers a product that might be a child's wish, shoes, is Madsen's picture book. Other products, insurance and medicine, are surely not something that a child would want or even think about. These picture books are clearly directed towards adults. One is even named for children and adults. This one, for example. But the question is, why did they pack their advertising in a form of a picture book and probably spend more money than for some more usual form of advertisement? The first assumption is associated with the front illustration of the picture book for children and adults. We can see a child and possibly a teenager reading a book. Behind them is an adult person passing by, visibly interested in their book. We assume that this is a book which should educate children who will pass the knowledge to their possibly illiterate parents. Even the story of this picture book is told in a manner of cautionary tale, telling that if you don't insure your goods, you could be left without anything. The picture book Mary Zvonko is a didactic story as well. It teaches a child that unlike the folk medicine, just one tablet of Gastol can solve their problem. Easy as that. But this time, the seller doesn't want to use a child as a bridge, but to influence a child and make the knowledge general. So even a child knows that Gastol solves your obstipation problems. So who's buying? Children are perfect targets in the advertising industry. The strength of their desire is high because it's not regulated by needs or price. However, the carrier of economic means is the adult, and he's making decisions. That's why advertising techniques need to provoke desire in children and also convince their parents that this is something worth spending money on. As in case of Madsen's shoes. In Madsen's picture book, the narration was aimed toward children. A cool, fantastic cat was making those shoes. Peritext was aimed at the adults. Madsen's shoes are the best. Also, in all the picture books, it is evident that a grown-up male is providing or buying goods. The most vivid example is in Mary Zvonko, because the father solves the problem by procuring the medicine. This is in connection with the fact that women did not have voting rights, economic independence, or inheritance rights in Croatia between the two world wars. So for conclusion, we want to say that this presentation, we try to offer an insight into narrative picture books between the two world wars in Croatia. These picture books were chosen because they contain product placement as non-fictional elements. We can conclude that both advertising and picture books are intended for adults and for children. We found explicit information about products in both visual and verbal discourse, and in the text and the peritext. Also, picture books contain non-fictional elements that depict culture of those times, both city and village culture and gender roles. And thank you for your attention.